Thank you so much for attending our April webinar. This is technically certified second April webinar. We hosted another one earlier this week with the Christmas Expo group. If anyone was a part of that, welcome. Good to have you here again. Today, we will be covering leasing versus selling. So, this webinar will be great if you're just starting out, maybe if you've been installing Christmas lights for maybe as a side gig or kind of a side hustle, as it's called, and are ready to take it to the next level. Or if you haven't started at all and are wondering how to get into it, or if you have already kind of professionally installed Christmas lights for a while and want to make sure that your model is the right model you should be using to be able to scale and reach those seven-figure numbers with annual revenue. So, without further ado, I'll tell you a little bit about certified lights and just to give you some insight into who's speaking to you today, and then we'll go ahead and get into it. So, certified lights is a Christmas light installer, manufacturer, and distributor. We're based in DFW and we've been in the business since 2006. So, this is our 20th year, 20th season installing Christmas lights, primarily in the DFW area with both commercial and residential clients. We do about seven figures, 1.8 a year, just from the installs. So it's gone good, it's gone pretty well, and we definitely have gotten the hang of how to handle all kinds of jobs from small residential homes to six-figure commercial projects. So we definitely know what we're doing when it comes to the business model side of things as well. We've tried everything you can think of probably, and we know what works. At least we know what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And most of the times, our partners, we have a network of partners that we train to get into this business and scale their own business see similar results. So anything that we've learned, we pass it along to our partners, and they end up being successful with what we've learned as well. So we're kind of just passing the torch, essentially, as it were, with these webinars, with our partnership program. And hopefully, you and us, we all kind of just profit from it. We also manufacture and supply larger commercial decor. So for cities or hotels or zoos or resorts, whatever it might be, casinos, those Christmas events that you see every year in cities or in any of the other venues that I just named, that is manufactured by companies by us and supplied and distributed and often installed by companies like us as well. So if you this Christmas you see a 10-foot gift box that you can walk through, or this summer you see some LED fireworks at your city's July 4th or 250th, America's 250th celebration in your town, there's a chance that those decorations came from us. So we can really do anything when it comes to LED lighting. We are also expanding outside of the Christmas side of things as well. So that's really just to say if you are expanding into commercial jobs and if you're already in the business and are expanding into commercial jobs, which is kind of the typical trajectory as we'll see here for most businesses when it comes to installing lights, then we can help you with that as well. So that's who we are. My name is Mateo Young. I am the Director of Business Development for Certified Lights, and I am happy to host this fourth monthly webinar. Next month, of course, we'll have another one, and we'll have some for the rest of the year. So thanks for joining us. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Um, we'll be talking about a sales business model, a leasing business model, and I'll give you some insight into what business model we use. Now, this is again for holiday light installers. So if you're an end user or maybe a city or something, this might not be the right webinar for you, but of course, stick around. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, I will get to them at the end. And I'm going to try to make this webinar fairly short. I will go over the pros and cons of each business model, so the sales and leasing model, kind of what type of installers use which model, and then give you some insight as to which one could be right for you based on what your goals are and your experience in the market. Yeah, so let's go ahead and continue. So let's start with sales. We'll start with sales and then we'll go on to leasing. Now, selling a sales business model is great for those that are just starting out. It's really kind of the side hustle business model. Now, of course, that's not to say that you can't be wildly successful and reach 6 to 7 figures with a sales model, but your margins are likely going to be a lot lower. Your costs are going to be a lot higher. And just overall, it's going to be tougher to retain um, long-term clients, but we'll get into that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. First, what does this look like? So what does a sales model, business model look like for a holiday light installation company, a Christmas light installation company? Essentially, it's what it sounds like. So you purchase the lights yourself, or you can use the customer-owned products. So this really gives you a lot of flexibility, which is why a lot of first-time installers use this model. You can save a lot of money. Well, I'll get to the pros here in just a little bit, but you can either use your own product or your client's product. The contract terms often vary with installers because this is such a flexible business model, as I just said. You're able to really play with the terms of everything when it comes to this selling model. Um, like I said, you don't necessarily own any of the product after installation because if you are doing if you are providing the product that you're going to be essentially selling to the customer, then they buy the product. So there's no storage involved for you when it comes to these types of decorations. Now, of course, you can see why that would be such a huge benefit for somebody that is just starting out, just has a small garage or something like that, or just somebody that doesn't think they have the right space for these types of decorations. Another point is that you do have to buy new product every year, especially if you want to maintain some level of consistency with your install. So if you're doing a company supplied installation, but you're selling off the product afterwards, of course, you're going to need more product every year because if hopefully your company is growing, you're adding more clients, so you need more money to spend on your products so you have the products to fill the demand that you're seeing. And of course, with a leasing model, this doesn't happen. So let's go into the pros of the sales business model first, and then we'll talk about the cons and a little bit more about it. Pros, higher first ticket value. Oftentimes, you can leverage the fact that you're selling them, your clients, the product and have a higher uh, price tag, sales ticket value for each job. So if you're doing 10 houses, instead of charging, I don't know, $1,000 per house, you can maybe charge 1,500 or 2,000 because you're able to kind of um, justify it by saying that you're not only providing the installation labor, but you're also providing and have to fully expense the cost of the product for this one job because you're not able to reuse that product as you would for a leasing model. So you do have higher ticket values. No storage required. As I said earlier, there is less space needed year-round for your customer products because you don't keep any of it at the end. So whether you're installing and taking down or just installing, uh, the product isn't yours after the contract sign, or I guess after the client has fully paid for the contract. So then you don't need a lot of space. If you start to get into the 40 and 50 and 100 customer level, then of course that can save you some space. Third, it's simpler. It has a more simple sales and pricing structure. So it's quite literally just your product cost times whatever it is you want your multiplier to be, and that's going to be your sales price for that product. And then you add whatever hourly labor rate you have in mind, and that's your model essentially. That's how you price your jobs. So you can see just another reason why why this model is more attractive for first-time installers, maybe younger companies that don't have as much capital or experience, or companies to support them like Certified Lights. and they're going to kind of go with the selling model instead, which is totally fine. As you can see, you can make money with it, and it's very much doable. This is a great model for hobbyists and short time side hustles. So it's definitely also less commitment to clients, less products to stock. And I'm sorry, I missed one point here, but it's definitely for those that aren't quite sure if they want to commit to this long term. Another thing I'll mention here that I was gonna write right here is elaborate a little bit more on the less commitment to clients. So part of the cons of this model is that you aren't guaranteed to have as high a customer retention rate as if you would with a leasing business model. Um, your client retention rate is not going to be as high. One, because your client really has no reason to, not many reasons to continue with you, even if you do a phenomenal job. Sorry about that. Even if you do a phenomenal job in the quality of your install, your customer doesn't have such a necessity to keep you around as their installer because uh, they own the product. If you're supplying very high quality product as well, there's no reason why they can't just go find a cheaper installer. So you can see why this model kind of starts to break down once you start to want to scale and to keep those customer retention rates high. You can, of course, use incentives to keep them on. And that's why on the pro side, I have a higher first ticket value. So if you do end up keeping your customer for the second, third, fourth, fifth year, one of the incentives that a lot of the installers that use this model is that they will reduce the job price for the following years after the first year. One, that's because essentially it's going to turn into a leasing sales model if you do that. Your client is aware that the product is already fully paid for from year one, so then they're not going to feel that it's justified to pay the same price if they've already purchased the product. So then essentially you're just charging them for labor and using customer-owned products that used to be your lights. So then it kind of merges into a uh, leasing business model. Lower annual contracts, that kind of just goes hand in hand with what I just said, and harder to build a client portfolio. Again, goes hand in hand with what I just said, because your customers don't have as much incentive to stay with you if you're going to want to charge the same prices. And that kind of takes me to one of the last points. I'm going to skip these 2 points for right now, just so I can kind of connect these two thoughts. You're going to have lower margins with this product, with this model. Not only because your costs are going to be higher year over year, and it's going to be more expensive to land new clients because you're constantly going to need new product for those new clients if you're going to be selling the products to your clients. Um, so you have higher annual product costs, but your subsequent years, if you do retain a client, are going to be lower in revenue as well. So that's going to add another hit to your margins, even if they're clients that you've retained, they're not new clients. Uh, this model also has a lower closing rate because the initial price for year one installs is higher because again, you have to charge for the product that you're selling them. Instead of in a leasing model, you kind of can build, um, think of it as amortizing the product into X number of years of a contract term versus having to expense that entire product cost into the first year of your client's if, in life in your cycle. And then last but not least, the revenue varies more. So I've been kind of talking around this point a little bit, but as you can tell, year one with any client in a sales business model is going to be much more profitable and just higher revenues versus year two, year three, year four, year five. So the trick kind of to this business model, the sales business model, is to continuously find new clients, which of course is going to cost more money for marketing, more money for product. And then if you do end up retaining them, another tactic is to leverage some of the ideas from the leasing business model and try to increase your margins that way. Because if at the end of the day, you are kind of trying to strive beyond the hobbyist side hustle route, and you're really trying to grow this business to 6 to 7 figures, you're going to need high customer retention rates. You're going to need high margins. You're going to need kind of all these things that the sales model just doesn't often easily provide. Now, with that said, I don't want to bash on this model too much because there are markets in the US that are accustomed to this model. So in some cities, some towns, the clients are not going to be too familiar with the leasing model, and they're going to kind of expect that the product that you use to install and decorate their home is going to be product that they keep after the season is over. So there are definitely some markets where this sales model is expected, and if you want to use the leasing model, there's going to be more time and effort required to educate the market as to the benefits of the leasing model or the cons of the sales model from their perspective. So that's essentially what a sales business model looks like for a holiday lighting company, the pros and the cons. And I'll pause here before moving on to the leasing business model to say if you have any questions about any of this, please put it in the chat. I know I've already received a couple questions, so I'll get to those at the end, but please continue to send them in. And I'll have my email listed at the end as well. So if you do have any specific questions or would like some one-on-one advice, I would be happy to take a meeting with anybody. A lot of these webinars are, or all of these webinars are very informative, but they're also kind of higher level because every market can be different. It's a little difficult to be super specific when it comes to this type of stuff. So if you are serious about maybe starting a company, one of these companies, or scaling and growing the one you already have, I'd be happy to kind of um, tailor this information to your market, to your company specifically. So don't hesitate to reach out and let's move on. So let's talk about leasing. So at the end of the day, you're installing Christmas lights and you're going to be taking them down. But where the leasing model um, kind of differs the most is that this is really an opportunity to maximize your margins by branding your service as a premium service, as a white glove, turnkey service that the client really doesn't have to do anything except ask you for Christmas lights and give you money. So what does this look like? This is a full A to Z service. So you design what the house is going to look like. You install the decorations, the lights, the garland, the greenery. You maintain it throughout the season. You take them down at the end of the season, and then you also store them for the client at the end of the season. So um, you store and you own all of the product. Ideally, for most leasing business models, the company, it's company owned already. So that meaning that you are the one sourcing the product. Your client is not the one sourcing the product. And this helps to streamline the quality of your service, the quality of your installs, and allows you to start reaching into those higher residential markets and commercial markets as well. And because of this, because you're able to leverage the basics of the business model to ensure a higher quality service, installation service, and customer service, it's easier to build a reputation in your market. Compared to the sales model, it's not as easy to build a reputation because if you don't have long-term clients, if you don't have a high customer retention rate, then uh, you might come across as just another installer. Yeah, they did a good job. I use somebody else now. But if you do if you're a leasing business model company, then your clients can say, yeah, I've used them for 5 years now. They do a great job. Here's their card. Instead of saying, yeah, they did a great job, but I use somebody else now. Um, and that applies for both residential and commercial property. So it's really just overall easier to build a reliable reputation in your market, which is great if you're trying to scale. If you're trying to reach six figures, seven figures, even high six figures, like 600, 800,000 per year, this model is kind of the way to go to to be able to reach those numbers, but you can also reach those numbers with a sales business model. This is not to say that you can't reach those numbers. You can probably reach them faster because as we went over, the ticket values for the first year is higher. They are higher. So you're going to have just more revenue coming in, and those seven figures, six figures, high six figures can be achieved probably a little bit faster, honestly. But your margins are going to be lower with the sales model. With the leasing model, your margins are going to be higher. Um, you're going to have a higher customer retention rate. That's what CRR means here. You're going to have lower year-over-year product cost, and I'll explain why here in a second. You're going to have also more predictable long-term cash flow, and you're going to have higher closing rates. So I'll go over each one of these. You're going to have higher margins, and a lot of these kind of relate to each other. So the higher margins goes really relates to all of these. Um, but overall, your margins are going to be higher because you're able to leverage multi-year contracts to ensure that your customer retention rate is high and that you have predictable long-term cash flow. So if you can say, okay, I have 50 customers that have a 5-year contract, I know that for the next 5 years, unless they cancel, which really doesn't happen too often if you're doing a good job, um, and your terms are built structured in such a way that uh, there are incentives for them not to cancel, then you can have predictable 5-year revenue from those 50 clients, and then you just focus on scaling. That's the trick to this leasing model. Lower product costs year over year. So let's take an example of this house. Let's say there's a customer. This is I don't know. This could be maybe, let's say, a $4,000 lighting job, $5,000, something like that. If this customer were to cancel this year, I go and take all those lights because they're already stored in it's April. Those lights are already stored in my warehouse. They're not stored in my client's garage because this is a leasing model. I didn't sell this customer those lights. So if this customer comes to me and says, "Hey, I for whatever reason, I want to cancel this year," I say, okay, that's totally fine. And then I'm able to go use those same lights that I've put onto this house on a new house. And that product cost me $0 essentially because this client has been, let's say this client has been a long-term client and they've essentially already paid off their product. So the cost that it took me, the install company, to purchase the product that goes on this house is I'm already making money off of the install from the product's perspective. I don't need there. I've already gotten past the break-even point essentially for this product. So I can reuse this product and I don't have to buy new product as you would in the sales model. If this were the case in the sales model, this customer says, "Hey, I want to cancel this year." I say, "Okay, no problem." But the lights are in their garage. They're not my lights. So if I go and sell their neighbor's house, I have to buy $1,000 worth of lights or whatever it is that it costs me to install those, um, instead of costing me zero in product. So you can see that year over year, your product costs are going to be lower. Now, this is also not to say that you're not going to have any product costs. You're going to have to buy new lights eventually. Whether you have those 50 clients that are on a 5-year lease and you just signed another 20 that you have to go and procure product for, Or lights break 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, the lights stop working or the lights start dimming or whatever it is. You're still going to have some product costs, but it's going to be lower because you're able to reuse the product that you already have purchased and that you already own, whether you keep the clients you have or not. And then higher closing rates. Higher closing rates are going to be kind of a staple with this leasing model because you're able to work out the terms of the contract and the pricing structure of the contract to show your customer that for everything that they're getting, this price really isn't that much. So let's say this is a $4,000 lighting job. Um, if we say if I'm talking to the client and I'd say this is going to cost you $4,000 um, every year, then they might look at you a little funny if they're not expecting that number. But you can say, look, you're getting the design, you're getting install, you're getting 24/7 maintenance, you're gonna get we're gonna take these down and store them professionally for you, and then we'll do it every year. If anything breaks, if anything were to happen, that's on us, that's not on you. There's other ways to sell the model, but essentially you get higher closing rates because you're able to provide discounts. And that's one of the things that we do. I'll get into this in the next slide, uh, as far as incentives to kind of create higher closing rates. Um, but I'll leave it to right now, I'll leave it with saying that you can provide incentives and your closing rates and customer retention rates can be much higher if you do it properly. And now the cons. There are, of course, cons to this model as well. There's higher upfront capital investments because you have, if you're going to be focused on quality and you're going to be focused on controlling every aspect that you can of the quality, that includes product as well. So instead of a sales model where you're open to using customer-owned lights, whether they bought those at Walmart or on Amazon or at the highest quality Christmas light manufacturer in the world, it varies a lot, of course. But if you're the one providing the product, you're gonna have to be the one providing the product. So you have to be the one purchasing the product as well. And oftentimes, if you really want to get into the higher end markets in this business, you're gonna have to, of course, have high quality products, and that might cost you a little bit more. Except if you are a certified partner. If you're a certified partner, which I can talk a little bit more about later, you get up to 20% off every single order, every single product year round. So that immediately knocks off 20% off your product cost year over year. And of course, you can see how much of a benefit that could be if you're scaling to 50 homes, if you're scaling to 150 homes. Um, Another con is that sales process is a little bit more complicated. As you can tell, the terms are slightly less flexible when it comes to what the sourcing of the product can look like and the other terms. So you're going to have to, there is some teaching involved, some educating involved to customers that aren't familiar with this type of model. And at the end of the day, it's easy. I want to say it's easy to convince people that this is a better model for them and for you. Um, but we have some courses on how to actually make those sales happen and kind of the points that you should mention when trying to sell with the leasing model. But it is a little bit more complicated. I'm not going to lie to you. The sales model is less complicated. Like I said, it's more for kind of back of your truck installers um, or the hobbyist as well. Because you're essentially just charging using this equation right here. Whatever the product costs you, you're going to sell it to the customer for X amount, and that's going to be your cost. But if you're having to kind of uh, break down the product cost over 3 to 5 years, and you need to be able to expect that the customer is going to be with you for 3 to 5 years, and what's that going to cost you, and what is storage and maintenance going to cost you, and all that. So it's a little bit more complicated, but kind of going back to benefits that certified partners get, we have entire Excel sheets, pro formas. We have pro formas, if you're not familiar, are is a way to help you predict the numbers that you could be seeing with costs, um, with the entire accounting sheet. So your costs, your revenues, everything. It's a great way to predict what your year one numbers are going to look like, what your year five numbers are going to look like, and we have all that already built out for you. So the sales model is slightly more complicated, but if you have someone experienced that is going to be standing there behind you, helping you with whatever you need, then the complicatedness kind of goes away. Um, if you're wanting to scale, you do also have to be kind of more attuned to running businesses because you're going to need to be able to use incentives to retain the customers that you sign on year over year. And then you're going to have to be able to also use proper marketing tools to land more customers. So then your margins just continue to grow and your um, number of clients also continue to grow. Last but not least, two more cons is that it might be a bit slower to break even. You do have higher profits, but they're slower to reach because you are not immediately getting paid for the product isn't immediately getting paid for. So on a business model, if you were to spend, I don't know, let's call it $1,000 for all the products used on this house, which is way exaggerated, but just to use easy numbers, let's say it costs you $1,000 to buy the product you see here. Immediately you'd be getting that back. Year one, first season with this customer, you're getting that money back. And a leasing model, that's not usually the case because your um, ticket prices are going to be slightly lower because it's clear to the customer that they're leasing, not purchasing these products. They're going to expect a little bit lower um, sales price, ticket price versus a sales. So you can see that with a leasing model, the first year is not going to be your break even for your product. It could be your second or your third year. But once you reach that, your margins are going to skyrocket and you're essentially going to be profiting every single time you install every single one of those bulbs instead of kind of having slightly lower margins before that product is fully paid off. So you can see it is slower to break even, but once you do, uh, you're going to see a lot more in the profits department. And then more storage required. People usually overestimate, from what I've seen, people usually overestimate how much space a customer's product is going to take up, whether it's in a garage, in your house's garage, or in your office's garage, or even a storage locker, whatever, for a container. Um, Most of the time, the lights that go on a house are not going to take up that much room. But compared to a sales model, they're going to take up more room because you're going to have to actually be storing it. So if you're installing 50 homes as a sales business model, you don't need to store anything essentially. But if you're using a leasing model, you have to store all 50 houses worth of product. And that might take up a small garage. That might take up a small storage locker container. So it is going to be an expense that you have to take into consideration. It's going to be an item that you have to a process that you have to build for your installers, for your crews, and you have to make sure that it's being done properly. So it just kind of adds another level of complexity to the overall process, but it allows you to retain control of the quality of the product, of the installation, and of the service that you're providing, which will unlock higher margins, higher customer retention rates, and overall more long-term predictable cash flow. So that is the leasing model, the pros and cons, what it looks like. And I'll pause here again. Again, if you have any questions about the leasing model, if you have any questions about how you're running your business and compared to one of these two models I've just outlined, feel free to send me a message here in the chat if you have any questions, or shoot me an email. I'll have my email listed at the end here. But last but not least, I'm going to talk about our leasing model. So Certified Lights is a leasing model. Again, we do about 1.8 million every year from installs during those last 3, 4 months of the year. We have a portfolio of hundreds of clients, both commercial and residential, and we have really honed in on efficiency and maximizing our margins. How do we do this? We primarily use a leasing business model. Like it says there, 9 out of 10 times our contracts are the same. We use a leasing model. There is your every once in a while that 1 out of 10 times you get a client that is really wanting to purchase their lights, or maybe it's a commercial project, or it's a city that has very strict purchasing requirements and they need to buy the lights. So we're flexible. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that Certified Lights model is flexible, but most of the time it's a clear-cut leasing program. The customer never purchases any other product and we almost never use any of the customer-owned lights. Again, to maintain the level of quality that we've been able to build over the 20 years and maintain the reputation for the quality of service that we're able to provide. This is a premium white glove service. We primarily have high-end homes, $10 million homes, $40 million homes. We do very large commercial properties as well. So we do part of our business model is being able to say that we provide a premium service for a non-premium price, essentially. We aren't charging $12 per foot or whatever your kind of Facebook Christmas guru says. We are fairly priced in the market, but we are fairly priced as well for the quality of service that we provide, and it's a very high quality of service. Again, for large projects, we're very flexible on leasing and selling, and the flexibility is what allows you to land larger commercial jobs. I'll throw that little tip in there because it's very important. Now, why am I telling you this? I want to show you that being flexible is great if you're really trying to scale. Now, everybody has different goals. We have a partner that reached, I think, 680,000 a couple of years ago, and they're done growing. They don't want to grow anymore. They want to stay right there. So, some people are fine just keeping this as a hobby, getting an extra $10,000, $40,000 a year, maybe even $100,000 a year. And some people really want to take this to the next level and reach 7 figures like we did. Some people can reach 8 figures. So it really depends what you're looking to get out of this business. For most markets, leasing is the best, but of course, as I said earlier, it all depends on the actual market and what you're able to sell those clients. Hybrid models do exist as well. We partially use a hybrid model when it comes to customers that really want to buy their own lights, or sometimes there are also instances where commercial clients have their own lights and they are strict about that as well. So sometimes we will use customer-owned lights if it's commercial projects. So again, another instance where having a flexible business model is important. Now, how can we help you? One of the parts of our partnership program is that we can help you if you're just starting off, if you have no experience in this industry, we can help you get started. We can help you decide on what business model would be the best for you. What kind of investment levels are you going to be looking at this year? We can help you with zero down product advancement. We can give you templates for real uh, job pricings. We can help you price your jobs out, which is oftentimes one of the things people find the most difficult because they want to make sure that they're pricing their jobs competitively, but they're also wanting to make money, of course. So there's a fine line there, and we can help you with that as well. We can help you with marketing, and we've built out dozens of marketing templates that you can literally just plug in your phone number in and your logo, and it's ready to print, or it's ready to email to your customers, or whatever kind of campaign that you're going to launch. We have templates for that. And then last but not least, we also, for all of our gold partners, we have 30-minute meetings per week, 4 times a week, so 4 times per month on any topic that could help you grow your business. So whether you want to talk about marketing or pricing or business models um, or really anything else, we can help you. And that is Certified Lights. That's our business model. Again, it's a leasing model. We do roughly 7 figures a year, and it's gone very well. We've been able to find the keys to success in our market, and from what we've seen with our hundreds of partners, uh, the things we've learned in the DFW market often apply to the markets across the US. So we definitely know how to help you, whether you're in upstate New York or you're in Los Angeles or you're anywhere in between. And that's it. So I try to keep this a bit short. I hope you got something out of it. I really wanted to make this informative but relatively high level so you can reach out to me if you have any questions. If you want to talk about your leasing model or your sales model or your hybrid model, whatever it is, uh, and see how you can improve, we would be happy to help you. We do free consultations. Just shoot me an email. Feel free to take a screenshot of the screen right here. My email is Mateo Young at certifiedlights.com. Fairly simple. And join us next month for our May webinar. So next month, we'll be going over how to turn the holiday side hustle to a 6 to 7 figure business, um, leveraging the sales models we've talked about here, leveraging the marketing tips we've talked about in other webinars, and stick with us because we're gonna host webinars every month. So whether you want to talk about marketing or you want to talk about sales or you want to talk about digital design, we'll have a webinar for everything. So